I joined Identiv January 2018, and the company is involved in access control and identification and authentication and all the technologies that support that. And I had a fairly large team in India at the time and a team in Santa Ana in Orange County in the office that I reported into. And the application was it was a client-server-based management tool that would set up and configure and monitor our access control systems. It became pretty obvious to me that the situation was just not tenable there, even though it was very cost-effective to have that team in India. So I made the decision pretty quickly that I needed to make a major change. And so then the option was, what problem am I trying to solve? And the biggest problem I was trying to solve was there was need for just a high degree of communication, a high volume of communication, high frequency of communication. Because that team needs to understand first of all, how the technology works. And then secondly, because it's a web interface, it's very UI intensive, so you need a lot of communication with the product manager, right, to manage that user experience. So I needed somebody that was in my time zone, so that communication could happen effortlessly all throughout the workday. I kind of got a nice benefit. I talked to some of my friends. I said, what do you think of Mexico as a way? Because I was also obviously on a fairly limited budget, right? Because I was actually trading a less expensive for a more expensive geography. And one of my buddies said, oh, I've worked with this company, Arkus, here's Marco's number, give him a call. And so I did, and the more we talked, the more Mexico made sense to me and the more Arkus made sense to me. One of the things I really liked was that the team I'd be working with was in Tijuana. And so it was, relatively simple to do a day trip one way or the other. And we did several times for that face-to-face to build some of that personal rapport and speed communication. And so, what I was looking for was the speed of communication and combined with significant cost savings. And so I made the decision, and Arkus was able to spin up a team in 60 or 90 days or whatever it was, and never looked back. I used them the entire time I was there for several years. Relationship is everything, especially when you have to work together in sometimes stressful situations. So it became apparent to me very quickly Arkus had a focus on what I call customer service, right? So the very first time we got together, we came down to Tijuana, met in the office, exchanged some pleasantries and talked about how we're going to work together and tools we're going to use and just a lot of the logistical stuff. And I found everybody that I worked with, and my whole team was there, the leadership. And they were just very pleasant, right? They knew what they were talking about. They appeared to be very eager to accommodate what our needs were, and so for example, they had no problem adopting our build systems and our documentation systems, our bug tracking systems, all that sort of thing. And so I found it just a very, call it low friction experience working with them, and everybody that I interfaced with was just very pleasant. It depends on the scale you need. I would say this, if you need to build out a really large team and your budget is relatively constrained, you probably are going to have to go to Asia. But if that's not the case, in every other scenario, Mexico is better, and working with Arkus is great. Simply because, when you're dealing with multiple time zones of difference. You can't fix that problem, right? It's there, it's structural, not going away. Best you can do is mitigate. And then secondly, the cultures between United States, Canada, Mexico really aren't that different. And so there's not nearly as many, let's call it cultural traps or cultural gotchas or whatever. When you're dealing with the workforce in Mexico, it's not that different culture is bad, but if you don't get it right, your communications and how you deal with one another, it really hurts your productivity. So to me, it's a no-brainer. Having to not have to deal with the time zone issue, and then having a lot of that culture in common, it just makes for real seamless and quick integration.